Hey, Naveen, how are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you
Yeah,
again. Thank you so much again for making the time for this, and I really appreciate this.
thank
I'm
you.
a big fan of you, so
Same here. Thanks for having me. This is awesome. Yeah.
fantastic. I wanted to ask you about so many different things
Okay.
today,
Okay.
but first of all,
And I don't know anything right now. I have no idea what this is going to be.
yeah,
I'm just here for the adventure with you.
here for
Yeah.
the adventure.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So, Steve, I want our audience to know about you
Yeah.
just a little bit,
Sure.
and all the wonderful things that you do. But we'll get into the specific ventures that you are doing as well.
Hmm.
But would love to just hear for the audience what you do from your perspective,
Yeah. What I do today, or like how I got here, or
how you got here.
all right. So, the story I've just recently become more comfortable with is how I grew up.
Yeah,
And so I grew up in a single parent, low income household. My mom had me when she was 19 years old. My dad was in prison my entire life. And the reason I tell that story is because if I fast forward to college, which I had to really just kind of figure out in a really challenging, it was challenging for me to try and figure out how to get through college or get into and through. And when I graduated, 3 months before graduation, all my classmates had jobs. And I'm thinking, why am I the only one that doesn't have a job yet?
yeah,
And so 6 months later, I landed at my first gig out of college. And a couple years after that, I was reflecting on that time of graduation. And I realized all of my peers in school were inheriting a professional network from their parents, something I did not have. And so I've spent my whole career, even sometimes not knowingly, building a network. And I tell people, our network's valuable for you, the person who has the network, absolutely. But they become even more powerful when you can share that network with others. And so I've had some really great people along my career who have helped shorten my curve. And my job now is to shorten the curve of other people. And so I know that's really high level and kind
yeah.
of vague, but it's led me to start companies. It's led me to start groups that meet on a regular basis. It's led me to try and uh, bring ideas to surface that are to bring the community together.
Absolutely. And is Experience Milwaukee part of that effort to bring community together?
Yes. So if I go from college to about 5 or 6 years into my career, I was in a spot where I was moving from one agency to another, and I was working with some really talented people. So I decided to uh, start a meetup,
Yeah,
and I did my due diligence as a founder of this meetup. Uh, did a lot of customer interviews, about how and why people stay in touch, and what types of activities they do to keep in touch with people they've worked with. And I got 30 or 40 people that said, I'd love to come to your meetup. So I launched it.
okay.
4 people showed up. The next month, 2 people showed up. So I lost 50% of my meetup in a month. And one of the guys that was in there that day said, hey, this is Milwaukee. It's the summer. It's beautiful out. If you have a life or a home, you're not coming to a meetup on a Saturday morning. And it just happened to work for me that Saturday mornings were okay. And so I switched it to Wednesday nights to a Mexican restaurant with margaritas, and that just changed everything. Grew it to the largest meetup in the state on the topic of innovation, creativity, design, entrepreneurship. In a time really early, about 2007, really early in Milwaukee's kind of trajectory on those topics, right?
Correct.
And so I ended up launching a company out of that. I ended up co-founding the state's first ever seed accelerator for tech startups, some innovation initiatives in the city, and all of this. And why I start the conversation where I started,
Yeah,
all of this from a kid who came from nothing.
correct.
So this city like embraced me and supported my ideas. So Experience Milwaukee today which was started in 2018, was my way to give back to the city, shine a light on people who are maybe at the point I was at when I was trying to start my things and help them shorten their curve.
That makes sense because it's all connected.
Yes. You see it, right? Because you
Yeah,
see it every day. But I think maybe you've been wondering, like, why is he doing this? Or
yeah.
why does he make these decisions? Or why does he help in this way? And it all goes back to my roots, of where I come from.
To be honest
Yeah.
with you, I didn't know about like how you grew up and
Yeah.
your background because we've met, but we've never really talked about.
We haven't
Yeah,
gotten deep yet till
yeah.
now today on camera. Yeah. So
No, but it makes sense. To be honest, I'm just a little like I'm trying to process
yeah,
everything
sure.
again as I'm like speaking with you right here.
Absolutely.
But it makes more sense to me right now as
Yeah.
I'm speaking with you. So you founded this meetup,
Hmm.
and the whole point of this meetup was to bring entrepreneurial talent together, or was it? And this is remember back in, if I'm not mistaken, 2007. That is
Yeah.
right before the crash and everything like happened, right?
Yeah.
Housing
So
market
it
crash.
was 2007. I was just leaving a band I was in and sold all my equipment and bought a Mac.
Music band.
Yeah, music band. Sold all my equipment. I bought a Mac and I'm like, I don't know exactly how to use this thing,
Okay.
but I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to build something with this. And so
Mm.
I launched a blog to start and I named it Sprinkler.
Sprinkler.
Sprinkler with two
Yeah.
E's. And the idea was like some ideas, um, like water, right? Some water from a sprinkler hits the grass or the flowers and you have growth. Some hits the sidewalk and evaporates and you don't see it ever again. And so, how do we take that principle into the art of starting a business? And so, yeah, the meetup was born from that blog, which was in many ways a support system for people doing hard things. Whether that was starting a business at the time, that was not as popular as it is now, or whether that was trying to pitch an idea inside of a company. And so, how do we come together and our collective brains help support each other through those processes?
So this is again close to like 20 years back.
Yes, almost
Okay.
20 years back.
Yeah.
And right before that, the crash or the recession,
Yeah.
right, in right around 2009, which is exactly when I launched my first company, which was a design and marketing agency that hired high school and college students, accelerated what they were learning in school, most importantly, got them connected in the community and helped them spring or sprinkle into
Sprinkle
their
into.
role. Yeah.
So with that meetup,
Yeah.
um, again, it was like Milwaukee focused or Wisconsin focused?
More Milwaukee focused.
Okay.
More Milwaukee focused. Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask on that piece is you've essentially seen the story of Milwaukee unfold,
Yeah.
especially from its like innovation and tech hub and
Hmm.
center of um, doing new things.
Hmm.
Can you share some stories for those who do not know like how it's kind of evolved? Just a small
Yeah.
snapshot of the evolution of this ecosystem.
Yeah. So it's really interesting, right? So in or somewhere around 2010, 11, that range, um, a couple of things were going on in my world, at least. One is I met Joe Kurgis and Greg Meyer and Emo Mamalakis, and the four of us, co-founded the state's first ever seed accelerator for tech startups
Okay.
under a nonprofit I had at the time. So the meetup kind of like fueled the pipeline or the deal flow for this potential accelerator through a nonprofit I had called Sprinkler Talent Labs.
Okay.
And Sprinkler Talent Labs eventually morphed into, and I'm simplifying this a lot, into 94 Labs, which I believe then somehow either stopped and became or shifted into Generator
Okay.
that we know today. Okay, so that's one segment. The other is I was working closely at the same time with Julia Taylor from the Greater Milwaukee Committee, and one day at a coffee shop, we sketched up an idea for this concept called innovation in Milwaukee, or Mike. And that the accelerator changed the conversation in the state on how you create jobs with your startups. The innovation program that Julia and I were working on sort of brought the corporates into that world of startups, right? So they started to get exposed to, oh, this is what these people are doing in these back rooms and coffee shops and small spaces and meetups and things, and what they're creating. And how do I, as a corporate leader, tap into that energy, right? Tap into that excitement and that.
Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for watching the podcast. I really appreciate it. This is a big thank you from me, Naveen, over here, for you to take out the time from your day and really invest in learning, and hope you're learning with us. I wanted to give a quick shout out to the people who are supporting this. A big shout out to the Milwaukee Tech Hub Coalition. The Milwaukee Tech Hub Coalition is a member based non-profit which is on a mission to inclusively grow the vibrant tech ecosystem in Southeast Wisconsin. Thank you so much to the Milwaukee Tech Hub Coalition for sponsoring this podcast.
Innovation. And so that was happening. And at the same time, the Meetup was growing, and I had launched my company, Sprinkler, the agency. And so we, as an agency, actually, back in that time period, pitched Summerfest on a tech component to what they were doing on the music side.
Okay, I know where this is going, but so is Summerfest Tech what you're talking about?
Summerfest Tech is its own thing today, right?
Yeah.
And it was born of a different set of people.
Yeah.
That I'm aware of. It was its own idea. But what's interesting to me is we were talking about these, to your question, right? Yeah. You've seen this, Steve, you've seen this community evolve.
Exactly.
Over time, over the past almost 20 years. These were the things like my people and I were working on in 2010, 11, 09, actually. And so it's been interesting to see things like the Milwaukee Tech Hub Coalition, Milky Way Tech, the different funds that the corporations have launched to support entrepreneurs.
4M.
Right, exactly. Innovation, the Innovation in Milwaukee initiative that was founded back then eventually housed Joe Peschel and Michael Hosted who were running the Commons, right?
Okay.
So that went into the system that was built back in 2009 or 10, right? So when I eventually sold Sprinkler to my business partner and kind of left the scene for a few years. Did some consulting, took on some short-term kind of roles, helping stand up marketing in different organizations or startups. And when I came back to the scene 5 years later, it was very different. And a friend of mine said to me one time, dude, is it hard for you to come back and see the things you were telling people, or you like Sprinkler, the community was trying to foster and develop back then, now happening? And I'm like, no, that's awesome. That's why we did what we did. This is great. There's no like chip on my shoulder for how the city's progressed. That's what we wanted to see happen. The hardest part is being in it, leaving, and coming back and trying to be relevant again. And so Experience Milwaukee was a big part of giving back, but it was also a big part of learning again about what's happening here and how I can contribute.
I love what you said there. I think a lot of our viewers who are a little ahead in their careers might feel that, because once you get off the horse, like how do you
You're worried how you get back on.
Yeah. And it's it is a concern that people foster in their subconscious. So I
Mhm.
just, if you can just relate or expand on that particular aspect, would, how did you kind of get back in? And because a lot of
Yeah,
people don't talk about that getting back portion.
getting back into the mix, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it was it was difficult to balance, to be completely honest. Sort of the, how do I leverage the people who were still in the scene, but were also in the sprinkler days?
okay,
Like, how do I like say, hey, you know, Ivan knows my history, so Ivan suggested we have a coffee and start to meet the new faces who are shaping innovation and entrepreneurship and creativity and design, right? And so you're one of those new faces, right? You didn't have a clue, and maybe Ivan said to you, "Steve's work, he's
yeah.
okay to meet with." And then as you dug in, or as we've evolved our friendship, you've been able to learn a bit more and sort of see some of those things. But the hard part is, how do you leverage the past a little bit to springboard into the next? And then I think the other piece of it is really understanding, like, what is your value to that community today? And part of what I've had to mentally kind of go through coming back in and being part of, again, what I feel like I've been part of this sort of creative environment and community here in Milwaukee for the past 6 or 7 years again, is shifting from the builder to the guy with the wisdom.
Hmm.
And so you can't, I think, I can't, speaking for myself, I can't play the same role necessarily that I played in that last chapter, right?
Yeah.
In this chapter, I can play the role of connector. I can play the role of sharing my experiences. I can play the role of seeing where some gaps are that fit me, that I can jump in and do some things. And so, even with experience, like, it was largely a project for me to keep my skills sharp, to understand podcasting and all that stuff that was happening around it, give back to the city. It also has been a platform to help my co-host Adam evolve in his creative process to where he is now ready and actually actively taking over Experience Milwaukee.
There are so many aspects to what you said,
Yeah,
which I love.
sorry.
No, I truly do. The first part which you mentioned about, being relevant again,
Yeah,
and you said about I can't play that role. In my head, it was going back to an actor who's been around for like 20 years, has played certain parts or
yeah, yeah.
roles. It is almost like you saying, like, maybe perhaps I'm not fitting in this role, but I still can contribute, and finding
Mhm.
these are the roles I can fit in.
Yeah,
And over a long spanning career, you can still find ways to contribute. With that,
right. That's a great analogy, the actor thing. Yeah. You're not playing the kid roles anymore. Now you're playing the dad roles.
yeah.
And maybe one day you're playing the grandpa roles, but um you have to be aware of, like, what's happening and who's doing what and what value you bring. You just have to be really super aware of that, I think, to be effective.
I want to ask about this awareness.
Yeah.
Do you think that if you were to be a builder again,
Mhm.
you recognize that no, I don't want to do that? Or was it like, I don't fit in for the moment right now? And if you had gone the other route, uh, that would not have given you the success that you're seeing right now?
I don't know about the last part of that. Um, I do. I don't want to dismiss building,
Yeah,
because even though I might primarily play role of connector and sort of passing on knowledge and being more of a mentor
yeah,
type now, there's still some building that I do.
okay.
I'm focused though on um, right, at least right now in the moment. And I think you may have hinted to, like, hey, we'll get to what's next or something. Or um, I'm focused right now on how can I, because of all the technology that exists, how can I, if I build something, it's got to have purpose to share wisdom, and it has to be something I can do primarily by myself, from wherever. But I also have a full-time role at the Milwaukee Youth Symphony Orchestra, heading up marketing, which just has my heart. And so um, that is another way that I'm passing on experience and helping the next generation of leaders come up.
I was just gonna ask you
Yeah.
about that. So this is a perfect segue. One of the things I've noted about you,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna say this right in front, you've always supported any, not just young talent, but anyone who's upcoming. You
Yeah.
kind of pour into that and give that. So I've personally witnessed you doing that with myself and plenty of others
Thank
who
you.
kind of are in your vicinity.
Yeah.
So what has been, and um all your programs now kind of fit. So there's a theme I can also see.
Yeah. It's taken 20 years almost to get there. So it's been, we talked about awareness, but it's also been patience. And now I tell my friends who are in their 30s, who have who are ambitious, who are building something, I tell them, be aggressive, right? Be aggressive in the moments that you can, in a kind, empathetic way. Be aggressive in how you pursue that initiative, but also have patience with yourself, because what you don't know today is how what you're doing today is going to help you in 10 years.
Can you say that again?
You don't know today what you're doing today, and how what you're doing today will help you in 10 years. So in your 40s, you'll look back on your 30s, whether that thing you were pushing worked or not, it is somehow going to help you in what you are working on in your 40s.
That's deep.
And that's the patience you learn over that. Now I've learned that I'm trying to deploy to share with others.
I'm glad you talked about patience. I find myself also getting impatient, and a lot of people I see around, especially in their 20s and 30s,
Mm-hmm.
there's a certain level of impatience for success or
Yeah.
getting to the next level. How do you cultivate that patience and practice patience?
For me, it's and to be honest, it's a lot of what I take, and people love him or hate him. Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. What I do love about him and what I take from him is the patience part, in how it applies to what you're doing in terms of the journey. So the next thing that I want to make or build may or may not ever be like publicly deemed successful, right? But the process I will take in doing it is what I enjoy. And so I can have patience around success, public success, because I don't put pressure on it. I
Hmm.
do in the micro, like I do in the day to day, like put pressure on like speed and outmaneuvering other things that are happening that I'm trying to get by. But in the long term, I try to have patience that at the end, there might not be an end, because the process, if you love it, that's the fun part. So if you love what you're doing, why try and hurry that? I don't know. It's complicated when you think about it, because you want to, beat your competitors. You want to have ideas that are first to market. And so that takes speed, and patience doesn't work well with speed all the time. But the patience part comes from the fact that I just love doing what I do.
Is that the same principle that was applied to Experience Milwaukee? And how long have you been doing Experience Milwaukee?
Almost 7 years.
Seven.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 2025 will be our 7th year, but 6.5 years now. So, but yeah, same principles. Um, in Maybe in a different way, though. In a large part, Experience Milwaukee has been a sandbox to test ideas in a 6-year experiment to see what is built next. And maybe it should have been built 3 years ago, but I've been patient with it. So timing matters, you know. So
Yes, timing does matter, because I think it's at the right time when podcasting and podcast formats in the last 3 or 4 years have like really gone up.
mhm.
So, have you seen like Experience Milwaukee also catching that wave?
A bit, yeah, definitely. And but I have some hypotheses around how you can truly utilize the audio content you capture, and where what I think could be one of an additional value point of doing a podcast. So sitting down with someone and recording for 5 or 30 minutes or an hour, I think there are value points in there that haven't been exploited yet.
What value points do you think? Or is this trade secret?
Trade secret. Next episode. Yeah, that'll all come out soon.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Steve, again, thank you so much for everything that you keep doing. Thank you for just being a force of good
Oh, thanks.
and a force of help.
Yeah,
If
thank
that's
you.
a term,
Thank you.
for everyone around. And I must say this because there are a lot of people who speak, yeah, let me know when you need anything. And there's, uh, when you do reach out, there's crickets or nothing. But you've been someone that I can personally attest to, that has always I've been able to count on.
Mhm.
And thank you for all the guidance and inspiration and help, and being a great friend, first
Yeah.
of all, first and
Thank you.
foremost.
Thank you. And that means a lot,
Thank you
man.
so much.
And I'm going to tell you what, it doesn't happen if you're a jerk, right? You have to be a good person too, to be able to see that someone offers value, to how to respectfully tap into that value, and to be willing to give back as much as you're getting, right? And so thank you for all of that and making it simple to be and do what I do. I mean, then I can just pour more, you know. So
Absolutely. Also, thank you for letting us, in a way, like passing the baton for Tech in
Tech and MKE,
MKE.
yeah, I love it.
We have absorbed
You're
that
killing it.
segment,
It's awesome.
and it started with you. So we wanted to make sure that we credit you for
Thanks.
that segment.
Thank you.
And we love having that and talking about that segment in our podcast. So in a way, that kind of continues. So
Sure.
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank
For
you.
that, we'll have to speak again.
Yeah,
Not just one time, but many more times.
sure.
So we're getting you on camera to like accept it.
No problem.
But thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Naveen.
Thank you. This podcast is brought to you by the Milwaukee Tech Hub Coalition. The Milwaukee Tech Hub Coalition is a member based nonprofit on a mission to inclusively grow the vibrant tech ecosystem in southeast Wisconsin. They help drive innovation by creating catalytic connections. From their tech focused job boards, events calendars, and monthly meetup groups, there are countless ways to plug into the tech ecosystem. Milwaukee's vibrant urban living, thriving food and art scene, and downtown views of Lake Michigan offer the benefits of a big city but with the prices of a small one. If you want to build your tech career in Milwaukee, get connected to choosemketech.org. Thank you so much for listening to this, and a huge shout out to the Milwaukee Tech Hub Coalition for supporting this podcast.